Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hadara and today I'm going to be doing my clean romance book wrap up. So these are all the books that I read in the months of May, June, and July. So let's get into it. So the first book that I read was the Perfect Rom-Com by Melissa Ferguson. This was a really cute read. I ended up giving it a 4-star. And yeah, it's basically about this girl. Her name is Bryony Page. She is a ghostwriter for a very famous author, but she's written all the stories. So she's kind of like the author. Following her have to deal with, being the ghostwriter of this really prissy and basically like a mean girl person. And also there is Jack Sterling, which is this guy. He is the literary agent of the publishing company that she works for. So it's following that, and that's such a fun premise. I really liked how relatable this story was and following her around with her writing and the ideas that she has. As a writer myself, I could relate a lot to her, and so if you're a writer, you'll probably really like this book because there's talks of books and writing and the process. And yeah, I really liked it, and there was a sweet little romance thrown in there as well. I really just had a fun time. The ending was really where it started to hook me and really got more, I'd say throughout the beginning of the book it was a little like dragging, but towards like the 50% on, it really started to pick up. I just felt really like happy with the ending, and it made me feel really satisfied. So if you want a good, just pure old-fashioned rom-com, this is it. You should read this. The next book that I read in the month of May was The Finders Keepers Library by Annie Raines. If y'all have seen my book shopping vlog, you should definitely go watch it, but you'll see that I bought this book in that vlog. I love this book. I also gave it a 4-star. This was such a cute read. I really loved following our main character. Her name is Savannah, and she is diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So we're kind of like following her, and then she also goes back to her North Carolina hometown, and she wants to visit her aunt. There is a little library that's actually like a really big library in her aunt's backyard, and her aunt basically owns this cute little free library for everyone in the whole town or community, I guess. And yeah, it's just like they fix it up, and there's just so much talks of gardens and roses, and she's also a garden influencer, and I just thought it was so sweet. There's a sweet romance as well, a single dad trope, and yeah, I just loved it. We're following 3 different people's point of views. We're following Evan, which is the single dad, following Savannah, and Eleanor also has a point of view in the story. I loved it. I loved seeing how everything came out in the end. It was just such a good spring into summer read. If you want just a good, clean, wholesome, sweet book with good like character development and just a sweet, happy ending, you'll love this. This was just a great time. The next book I read was The Ordinary Princess by MMK. This was such a sweet little like fairy tale book. It was definitely a middle grade story. So if you have young readers, or if you just want to read a cute little like fairy tale book that's really short, it was only like 100 pages. So if you just want to get a quick little read in, this is great. I love this. I loved all the life lessons in this. It's a very good book for children, I feel. It's just a cute like story that's very fairy tale-esque, and it's about this princess who is an ordinary princess. There's nothing special about her, and so we're kind of like following her. It wasn't like too much into the characters, it didn't go too in-depth, but I really did like what the story did. There was even a cute little sweet romance in there as well. I loved following her and kind of seeing how she grew as a character. She didn't want to be like a princess. She didn't want to be a traditional princess, and she kind of had to discover her own self and kind of what that meant and looked like for her. And so she kind of goes on a little journey, and it's just so whimsical and it was so sweet. I just really recommend it though for younger readers. I did give this book a 3.5-star rating. It's like 3.5, 3.75. Yeah, it wasn't like the best thing I've ever read, but I would still recommend it if you just want that good fairy tale kind of vibe, and if you just want something easy something that you can just fly through, or if you just need a book that you want to finish relatively quickly and add it to your books that you read for the year. Okay, and the next book I read was The Rose Legacy by Jessica Day George. I loved this book so much. I gave it a 4 stars, and every star was so deserved. This was such a sweet little fantasy book for middle grade. I love this. So we're following our main character, Anthea, and she is basically an orphan, and she's sent to live with her uncle in this place that is kind of like a forbidden place amongst this kingdom. And so she goes there, and there's horses, and horses in this fantasy world are forbidden. The horses are supposed to not exist in this world. They were supposed to have died out already, and because of a plague that everyone in the kingdom thinks that they caused. So she's freaked out that there's horses in this estate that she goes to live with, and it's her uncle. And so the story kind of evolves from there, and there's just so much that goes into this. If you love horses, or if you just love a good fantasy story, you will love this book. Like, this is so good. It was really fast paced. I wanted to know what was going to happen next, and I loved going on our adventures with Anthea, and she meets some friends too along the way. There's her cousin and then a few other people, but there was lots of like talks of them going to the stables. She learns how to ride a horse, so there's lots of things that she has to kind of like learn to like horses, because she's obviously surrounded by them. And I just loved it. Like, I loved how beautiful the writing style was really what I liked. I liked the pacing, the writing style. I really thought it was well done. I want to read the second book this month, so I'm going to do that. But yeah, The Rose Legacy, so good. Now we're moving into the books that I read in June, so it's officially summer. So first I read Summer of the Summoned Sword by Sarah Baran. This was also a really good book. So this is a fantasy book, and basically it's like a retelling of this opera that I have never seen, but you might kind of know like a song from it, the Wedding March. That's where this song came from. It came from this opera that the author decided to retell. I loved this book. This was so good. This is like a world set where there's like fairies and different like mythical creatures, but we're following our main girl, which is Elsa. She is a princess, and the story starts out with her in prison because she's being accused of murdering her brother, which is the prince that's supposed to take over the crown. And this evil guy basically threw her in the prison, and she's like, I didn't murder my brother. And then we're also following our other main character, which is the knight, and he is Sir Green. So basically somebody needs to take over the crown still while the brother is quote unquote like dead or murdered. So they're like, if it's not the princess, because she can't, because she murdered her brother, then somebody else has to do it. So what happens is they're like, well, she should marry somebody. So who comes along? Sir Green comes along. He's a knight. He's been wandering around, and he decides that he needs to help her. And so there's like a marriage of convenience that happens. This was such a sweet, clean romance. I really love the romance. I gave this one a 4.25 stars purely because I just love the fantasy vibes. Like, the whole setting, the premise of them trying to figure out where her brother is, if her brother is really dead, like the whole mystery behind that was so cool. And then we also have the romance between Sir Green and Princess Elsa. If you love like magical world settings with like fairies or if anything like that, this really reminded me of a sweet little Barbie movie. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just such a good cozy fantasy. It was kind of giving me almost like Princess of Thieves, if you guys know that movie with Keira Knightley. Also, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Robin Hood and a little bit of, I will say, Barbie movies like Rapunzel or the iconic Swan Lake. So yeah, so if any of those sound good, read this. And it's also a part of a series, so there's other books as well. The next book that I read was Miss Austen by Jill Hornby. This was really good as well, and I gave this one a 3.75 stars. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read, but I did really enjoy it for what it was worth. I listened to it on audiobook. A great historical fiction about Cassandra, which is Jane Austen's sister. It's obviously fictional, but a lot of the things that were written really did happen in the Austen's lives. So it kind of went through Cassandra she's basically older now and we're following her old, and then we go back to her when she was young, when she was like my age, like in her 20s. And then she's also with Jane, and then we see Jane writing, and then we also like see Cassandra's life and kind of see what was going on and what people don't really know, what was really happening. I wanted to read this because of the Masterpiece miniseries that came out, which was the adaptation of Miss Austen, which is this book. I really liked it. They did change a little bit of things from the show and the books. Obviously, that always happens with every adaptation. Nobody ever wants to do the same copy and paste. I enjoyed both of them in different ways, and I really think that if you are a Jane Austen fan at all, or if you just love like reading about historical Regency era, you'll really like this one. Okay, the next book that I read is not surprising to anybody, but I reread Miss Lattimore's Letter. If you know, you know. I was reading this in a reading blog that I have on my channel a few videos back, and I finished it in June. This book was so good. Rereading it again for the second time was amazing. I literally love this book. Like, if you haven't read this book, it's so good. We're following Sophie Lattimore, and she overhears a conversation one night at a Regency ball. She's on a balcony, and basically she hears this couple like quarreling, like they don't love the same person, and so she takes matters into her own hands and she decides to write a letter to the guy. So the word goes around that she's writing this letter and she saved this person's relationship, and basically she's like a heroine and everybody loves her and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is so great for you. But she's a spinster. She's 28 years old, because in Regency times you were a spinster by that age. So then the guy that she wrote the letter for introduces her to a friend, which is Sir Edmund Winslow, and he's looking for a match himself. So he's trying to get help from her to kind of get a match made for himself. So she's like, okay, I'll do that for you. But then her love from like 10 or 8 years ago, I can't remember, comes back into her life. Yes, he does. And so she's torn between these two guys. It becomes kind of a love triangle. Basically, this book is about her finding her love and really figuring out who she's really in love with, because hello, her childhood love came and that proposed to her 10 years ago, left, now he's back, and then this guy shows up and she's trying to help him win a match. And her cousin's little subplot is really funny, and her cousin is also trying to get a match too. So we have a lot of different things going on in this book, but it was so great. The romance, everything is just so good. It's like 5 stars. It's always going to be 5 stars for me, especially towards the ending. I love this one. If you haven't read it, go read it right now. You won't regret it. The next book is The Summer of Yes by Courtney Walsh. This was a good one as well. I give this one 4 stars. So we're following our main character after she basically gets in a tragic accident, and so the story kind of opens up like that, and so we're kind of like thrust into what's happening, and she kind of figures it out as she goes along. But there's this lady there in the hospital with her, and she's like this really well-known famous woman that owns like a makeup company, and she's like this rich, really well-off person. And so she's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So they start striking up a conversation, and this woman doesn't want anything to do with her. She's like, why am I giving you the time of day? Basically, they become friends, like begrudgingly, I feel like. Our main character really pushes all this woman's buttons, and it's such like a good book if you just want to have a different outlook on life, because our characters go through a lot, both of them, so we get both of their point of views. Our main girl, she wants to people please, but she also needs to learn that it's okay to do things for herself. And so basically she comes up with this idea that let's just have a summer of yes. I'll say yes to everything and anything, and I will do it within reason, obviously within her morals, right? And so she gives this idea to the older woman, and the older woman's like, you're crazy, I'm not going to join that. Why would I even do that? Why are you even here? And so basically she ends up agreeing against her will again. And so they go on this cute little like adventure, and there's a lot of self-discovery, and then there's also a romance as well. It was a very good women's fiction book. If you want a book to kind of change the way you think about things, then I would definitely recommend this one. The next book I read was Plotting Summer, and this was so good as well. I gave this one a 4.5 star. And I love this one. Okay, so we're following our main girl, Capri, and she is a writer, but nobody knows that because she's going under a pen name. And so nobody really knows, except her sister, that she's really an author, and a best-selling author at that. So the story kind of opens up with like this fun childhood, kind of like remembering her childhood crush. And then we go back into present day. Her sister tells her she needs to come back because basically they're like renovating the house and they need to give her books that they used to have. So she decides to go back to the island that she used to live on because now she moved out, she's in the city. And so she goes back to her little tiny home island in Florida, and it's this really cute, picturesque little small town. So it has that trope in there. And when she's there, she ends up running into her old childhood crush, which they were friends. So it's like childhood friends, and she has a secret. Her pen name that she used is actually his last name, and then the nickname he used to call her when they were teenagers or kids. So she obviously doesn't want anybody to know that because she doesn't want anybody to know that she used to have a crush on him. So basically the story kind of follows from there, and I just loved it. I loved how relatable the story was. I loved how her as an author and writing, I could relate to that because she would talk about different things. She'd be like, oh, I see this scene, I see how this could be, and she would just like start talking about like this would be this, and this would be this scene, and this is how this would be if I could just do that. And I just related so much. So if you're an author, if you're a writer, this is the book for you. Like, you will love this. I loved it. Like, that's why I gave it such a high rating. The romance was really cute, the romance was really sweet, and I loved it. Like, such a good summer book. So the next book that I read was Miss Newberry's List by Megan Walker, and this was a 5-star read. So I love this book, if you couldn't tell. It is a Regency book. We're following our girl Rosalind Newbury, and she has made a list when she was a little girl of 10 things that she wanted to do before she got married, because she's going to get married in 2 weeks to a guy that she's only met once, because it's gonna like help their families, you know, be more prestigious. She doesn't want to refuse, and she basically signed an agreement that she's going to marry this guy that she doesn't even know. So she's looking for this list because she's like, this is my last chance of having some freedom, so let me go do what I want to do. And when she finds this list, she goes to her best friend who lives next door in their little Regency house. And when she's there, she ends up stumbling upon this guy that she doesn't know who he is, and he ends up being her best friend's cousin. And it's a really funny meet cute, to be honest. And so she shows her cousin the list, and her cousin's like, girl, why do we need to do this? But she's like, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to drag you along with me. And the cousin, his name's Charlie, he also was like, yeah, let's do it. So they all go on these little adventures and completing these things that she wrote on this list before she gets married. There's so many like fun little adventures that happen in this story, and I loved it. Like, I just loved how everything played out, and I loved the setting and how the romance ended up unfolding. And I literally was on the edge of my seat at certain parts in this book as it got closer to the end. This was a wild ride. Like, this book was crazy and beautiful, and I loved it so much. And if you get a chance to read this, read it right now. I'm telling you to read so many books right now, but I'm not joking. Like, go read it right now, because it was just so good. Moving on, the next book I read was Beachy Keen by Casey Stockton. This was a really cute read. I only gave it 3.75 stars, still a good rating, but I didn't really connect with the characters as much in this story as I did with the other book, Plotting Summer. They're in the same interconnected standalone series, so you can read any of the books in any order. but I just didn't connect too much with these characters. I thought the story was great. This was like a billionaire type of romance, and yeah, I didn't really like love it as much as I thought I would have. This book is dual point of view, so we have our main girl and then the guy, and I don't even remember their names. They weren't that memorable. So the main girl works at her uncle's bed and breakfast in this small town, and that just sounds really cute already. Like, honestly, that's kind of why I liked it. I liked it for the fun vibes. But she also has another job. She's also cleaning people's houses for a living, and she cleans his family's house, which obviously, you know, they're rich. So billionaire people. He's back because of something that happened in his work, and he's basically taking some time away from work because of things that went down. And so now he's just trying to recoup and kind of, you know, rest and take it easy, kind of like finding himself. So basically they run into each other because they knew each other back when they were like teenagers, and this girl hates his sisters. Like, she hates billionaires, she hates rich people, she hates his family. So it's also like a little enemies to lovers in there. There is some tension and just some things that end up happening, and yeah, it was great. It was a fun time. It just wasn't like my favorite book or favorite rom-com that I've read. I think though, if you do like the billionaire romance trope, you probably would like this. But I definitely enjoyed Plotting Summer so much more. I don't know if it was just because I felt more related to the characters, but I think that definitely was the case, because with these characters I just couldn't really see myself or couldn't really find a connection. And anyway, I just, yeah, I felt distant. Like, I didn't care too much, but I cared enough to finish the story. The last book that I read in the month of July was My Fair Mermaid by, again, Sarah Baran. And this book was really good. I gave it a 4-star. This was such a good summery book. Like, if you just want a book that's like set at the beach, set underwater, fantasy vibes, this is your book. Because we're following our girl Mirabelle, and she's a mermaid. This is a retelling of My Fair Lady and The Little Mermaid. I was gonna say My Little Mermaid. No, The Little Mermaid. She lives under the sea as basically a cousin. She's not related, but she was kind of left in the care of the royal family, and so all the cousins basically have become her family, but they don't treat her very well, and she doesn't stick up for herself. And yeah, she's a pushover, but don't worry, she has a good overarching story at the end as well. And one night there is actually like a really bad storm, and her and this other girl, her other cousin, they see like a ship that's going to sink, and so they want to go and try to save some people. So they end up saving 2 guys, and then they wash up on the shore, and her cousin says that she fell in love with the guy that she rescued. So Mirabelle's like, okay, well, you can't do anything about it because you're not a human, okay? So they end up going to, obviously, like her friend, which is a siren, and she's said to be like the sea witch of the sea, but she's really just a siren. And in this fantasy world, sirens can like do stuff that mermaids can't, and they have like this special magic that regular mermaids don't have. She's like, your friend can help me and give me a pair of legs so I can go above the water. I love how the author incorporated the My Fair Lady little nuances and little like things that I could see. Oh, that person's name reminds me of the My Fair Lady person, or this is like a scene like in the My Fair Lady movie. And the main guy character is obviously Professor Higgins, but his name is Hadrian in this book. And he was so great. I loved seeing like the dynamic between him and Mirabelle. Yeah, I loved it. The romance was so sweet. It was a slow burn. So if you love slow burn, you'll love this one. If you love that yearning, you'll love this one. All right, and those are all the books that I read in the summer. This was so fun. I loved giving you the whole wrap up for all of you that love clean romance. I'm so excited to read my TBR this month for August. So stay tuned for some reading vlogs coming up. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and comment this emoji. If you stay till the end of the video, you are a real one. I will have all the books linked in the description below if you want to go and check them out, as well as my social medias, my Goodreads, Fable, Instagram, Bookstagram. All the things will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video, and subscribe to my channel for more girly fashion, book, and lifestyle content, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!